Hey everybody, welcome this week to the Forward Podcast. I'm Kari Shepherd and here with my better half, as per usual.
And here we are, talking about change, Kari.
Yeah.
Do you handle change well?
What's that look for?
Because this is a subject you thrive on. You're so good at this subject.
Really? You think?
Oh, my word. Yeah. No,
Just
I
kidding.
don't think
I know.
I absolutely, yeah. Oh, you beat me to it.
You're good with it though.
Oops.
You're not as good as me.
Yeah,
You're
no,
doing
that's
good.
well said. I don't even care. Like, you can make fun of me. I don't do great. I actually do good with some change, not
you're good.
all the time.
Yeah.
I am very routine.
Yeah.
So when it breaks up that routine, then I'm not great with it.
So you're not great with change.
No, not. There is some change, and you're like, oh, we're going to do this. I can't think of anything right now.
We're struggling.
No, wait a minute. Here we go. I'm not okay with it in the moment, but after it's done, I'm like, oh, I love this. Don't roll your eyes, woman.
I can't even.
Kari Shepherd.
The amount of times, y'all don't even know. You don't even know.
The sad thing is you use it as a weapon against me now.
I
because
do.
Kari has said,
Absolutely.
hey, we're going to change this room around. I'm the kind of person like, why? It's been like that. We just changed it 15 years ago. We don't need to change it again.
Yes.
And Kari's like, no, we need to move it around. We'll do this. We'll hang this. And I have the worst attitude and I hate life. And then when we're done, I'm like, oh, Kari, this is so awesome. I love it.
I didn't mind like the first 5 years, but now I'm like, really? You're going to do this again? You're going to get a bad attitude and be angry, knowing you're going to love it.
No, because you start out now.
19
You're
years
like,
later,
you're
you
like,
know you're going to love it.
you say, okay, listen to me. Take a deep breath. And I'm like, oh,
That's
here
true.
it comes. And you're
That's
like,
true.
do you trust me? I'm like, yes. And you're like, we're going to change something. And I can feel my blood pressure going up. And you're like, and you're going to love it. Say with me, you're going to love it. And I'm like, I'm going to love it.
Yeah.
And then I love it.
And then you do. You hold yourself together during the
Oh, my
transition.
word.
This is a great topic, y'all. That was a good segue into what we're talking about
Yes,
tonight,
it is.
which is navigating change. It's not easy for everyone, and we can help those people.
Yeah, we can help you.
We can, those of you who are like me, we can help our brothers and sisters in Christ.
Yes. So tonight we're talking about kind of navigating change, and really we're going to try to make this a little bit shorter because it might segue into something that's bigger, but we kind of want to talk about just a couple kind of sub points this evening. And the first really is recognizing the reality of change.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts, because if we're not careful, we do very quickly get in a mode where we don't like change. We become very routine.
Mhm.
And we serve a God that did not create us just to be routine, robotic, run through the motions.
Right.
In our spiritual life, in our married life,
Mhm.
in life in general.
Mhm.
Life is meant to be broken up. And
Yeah.
so as we head into recognize the reality of change, the Bible does talk about to everything there is a season, which means there is a time for everything. And then Solomon runs through a time for this, a time for this, a time for this. And what we recognize through this is truly, if you're not careful, you want everything to be specific, the same, don't change it up. And if you're not careful when that takes place, when things do happen, it does change, man, your world is distraught. This is where people cannot handle it.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to understand that the reality of fearing change is that you're afraid you're going to lose control. So many times we don't like a routine just because it's familiar. We like it because it's in our control.
Yeah.
And to lose that control is a fearful thing.
Yeah.
People are comfortable with control. They don't like thinking, what if I'm not in charge? What if I don't have a say in this? And to some extent that's healthy, but to a greater extent, especially from a spiritual point of view, if you are a Christian, that can be very damaging.
Right.
Because you can't control life. You can't control everything in life. And
No.
most of the time you can't control anything in life. Even when we think we are doing it all, God often has other plans, or life just happens.
Right.
And so I think a big part of accepting the reality of change is releasing that fear of losing control and just understanding that eventually I am going to lose control, and eventually, God has got to take this,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah. And let me add to that, change is inevitable.
Yes.
Like it is going to happen.
It is.
Work, family, ministry, personal life.
And you don't know what it's going to be.
It's inevitable. From the moment we were born, we were changing, and we will always be in it. And the problem with getting stuck is so many times you want everybody to be or adapt to your way, your system, who you are. And it's inevitable. Even who you are is going to change.
Yeah.
Culture changes, society changes, politics change, people change, standards change. Everything in life is constantly moving. And so the more that we can adapt to, hey, this life is constantly shifting and changing, but we do serve a God who does not change, who is a constant. Let that be our source of constant in our life.
Yeah.
This is where we become a lot more smooth, a lot more satisfied with life and living life.
Yeah.
And so some of the emotions, what do you think, Kara? So we've moved, let's use this illustration. We've moved several times.
Yeah.
So we've been married coming up on 19 years. So 18 years. 18 years of marriage. We've made 1, 2, 3 big moves. 3 major moves. We've moved houses and apartments and stuff. I'm talking about major moves. Run us through some of the emotions of a massive transition like that in life.
Women don't like transitions. We are good. I think we're better with change. It's just like the middle of it, like going to a new church or school or starting a new job. It's just the transition of getting there. I think that's hard on women. And so, the emotions are a ton of fear, a ton of, if you have children, you're very concerned, especially if your kids are small and they're school age and they're moving schools. As a young mother, that's probably the hardest part. You're just afraid, are your kids going to be okay? And then you finally get settled and you're like, wait, I didn't even check on myself. Am I okay?
So fear, you feel like, is number one.
Fear is for sure number one. Fear of the unknown. I remember some of our, moves, living in Ohio after we got married and then moving to West Virginia. And I'd been to West Virginia many times, but living there and just the cultural differences, even just one state away, it was quite drastic. And so not even fear of like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, but fear of, am I going to be the same person?
Right.
I'm not with my family and all those things. So I think fear probably is the biggest.
And I would say the coolest thing about that is it's awful in the moment because you do fear, especially if you're a lady and you're kind of following, a husband somewhere for a job or for ministry.
Yeah.
You have that fear of, are we going to make it? What's it going to be like?
Yeah.
Am I going to lose my husband to this job or whatever the fears are? What I would say the flip side is, in those moments is when God really begins to reveal himself.
Yeah.
That's when he shows himself that, hey, I didn't leave you. I'm still with you, whether you're in Ohio and that first transition to West Virginia. He proved himself over and over again that he was there with us.
Yeah.
I'd like to add probably too, uncertainty is a big one as well. Sometimes we have a lot of younger people that ask, how'd you make a transition? And especially when we're in our mid-30s, and we made another major transition to California from West Virginia. After we were in West Virginia for a decade, all of our kids are born there. We said goodbye to all of our family. It was not a great time. That was very, very tough on our family. But I would say maybe for you, fear, and for me, it was just the emotion of the uncertainty.
Yeah.
Is this going to work out?
Yeah.
What's this new life going to be?
Right.
In our mid-30s, making a major change in our jobs was big. And I think it's in those moments that, once again, you start really learning to trust God.
Yeah.
Fear, transition, anxiety, all of it comes in, sure. But this is where you say, well, I've prayed. God's given me a peace about this. You take a big step and God begins to reveal himself.
Yeah. And I think that's the awesome thing, is that in the end, I mean, especially with something like a move that we're kind of being specific to that. Um, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. Like you do find your community, you find your people, you find your places and, little areas that you like to go and parks you like to visit and just things like that. So I think after the first move, that's what really hit me was like, okay, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Yes, there's going to be bumps. Yes, there's going to be issues and things that pop up. But I mean, you have that anywhere you live. There's something about everywhere that might not be perfect. So
Right.
I think just understanding that, like, keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on the goal. And that really does apply to most big changes in life. Eventually things settle down, you adapt, and it
Right.
becomes okay. It becomes what you make it. It
Right.
really does.
Let me ask you this, Kara. Do you ever feel like there was a time in your life, because you are adventurous, you don't like things routine at all. You like spontaneous, you like change. Like you're for it. I'm
Yeah.
always the slow, like you're like, come on, honey, let's go, let's go.
Mhm.
And so I'm always a couple years behind you. But do you ever feel like in your life there was a moment, not maybe a move, but something where you were like, I really don't want to change. I don't like this. I want this to stay the same. And yet you knew the pattern was shifting.
Yeah, I mean, in West Virginia, we had only been youth pastor for a year and a half
Okay.
and just had our first baby and, lived near no family. And, a big change happened in our ministry where our pastor moved on and left, kind of us in the interim. And you were still teaching the teens and preaching every Sunday. And Tommy was, 3 months old. And I did not want that change. I was
Yeah.
very upset that, it was very hard on us. And we had, loved them and it was sad and we were excited to work with them. And, God just moved them on. And so it was like, oh man, this is not what we planned.
Right.
We left our family to come here and this is not what we planned. But of course, God always works it out. He worked it out the best for them, worked it out the best for us and for everyone involved. And it was definitely, looking back, it was like God used it.
Right.
But I remember just that was the biggest time I think maybe in my whole life where I was angry. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't like this. I don't want this. And this is going to be a real big bummer.
Yeah.
But
So
we got through it.
how did God work out in the end?
In the end, I mean, we just really saw what we were made of. I think that was
That's good.
that was a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, we grew up fast. But at the same time, I think it was a time that we also grew together. And
Yeah.
you and I had, I mean, it changed our marriage. It really changed our outlook on ministry just because we went from like, kind of depending on this couple that was older than us to kind of walk us through. And then all of a sudden it was, we have to be the
Yeah.
grownups. And it was tough, but I loved that God taught us through that and brought us through that. And
He did.
we ended up, I mean, then the second thing hardest thing I've ever had to do was leave that place
Right.
because it became so special and so we were just endeared to those people like nothing else.
Yeah.
And so God used it by just rewarding us really with a family.
Yeah.
And then of course Teal and Tyler came to work for us, which Josh
It's a
and Jess,
train.
like we just
Yeah.
got to work with some people that we
Cream of
absolutely
the crop.
enjoyed immensely.
So I would think for me, where I struggle, I'm very nostalgic.
Yeah,
So
you're sentimental.
I'm very sentimental.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Anyways, I was just gonna embarrass myself, but I'm not. So
No, dude.
no, just like even my Instagram page is like everything from the 80s and the 90s, like cool toys from
Oh,
cool
my.
toys from the 90s, Micro Machines and GI Joes and
Oh, that's sweet.
Super Mario, blah blah blah. Anyway, so I loved my growing up, and so what's hard for me now is changing our kids.
Mm-hmm.
I've just every stage, have I not? I say, I wish our kids could just stay at this age,
Yeah.
and then they move a little bit, they get a little bit older. I'm like, oh, I love this stage. I wish they could stay at this age,
Yeah.
and it's always hard for me, and yet you learn more and more. Don't miss the moment.
Mhm.
It is an incredible moment. Just live in it,
Yeah.
because every time there's growth and there's change in their life, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's incredible.
Yeah.
People used to say, don't blink. Those kids, it was Martha, Lily. Remember Martha and
Yeah.
Ron and Martha would always say, you'll blink and those kids will be grown up. I was like, good grief.
Like,
No,
it doesn't
it's
feel like that right
no,
now.
it feels very long.
It does not feel like
But
that.
she was right. It goes faster and faster.
Yeah.
And even though it's a lot of change, I think it's great change and you live in the moment and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, narrowing in again on the response to change, responding in faith, especially from a Christian point of view. I mean, having that faith to allow God to change your life. And we're talking about light things that are, moving and kids growing up, but there are some very difficult changes in people's lives. I know my side of the family went through some huge changes 4 or 5 years ago, and they were trauma changes. I
Yeah.
mean, it was stuff that tore our
Tough.
family up. And that's not the kind of change where you just sit back and say, well, the transition's hard, but it's going to be okay in the end. You don't know if it's going to be okay in the end, and it might not.
Right.
And so those changes, it's imperative to respond in faith.
Yeah.
And to have this trust in God that, look, none of us are above traumatic change.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are above going through a change in life that literally rips us up and brings us to our knees. It happens often.
Right.
And if you can avoid it, great. But I think it's better to be ready for it and to have that foundation of faith where as soon as something like that happens, your default setting is, God, what are you doing? I'm here for it. Teach me through this.
Mm-hmm. And he does always in those transitions reveal himself in such a way that you look back, you're like, wow, that was perfect. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
A big, again, a transition for us, California, then we're moving back.
Yeah.
Now, Kara, talk to people because that had to be hard on you. I'm telling you, Kari, when we moved from West Virginia to California and then back, you never complained to me. You never griped. You never, not once, Kara, did you ever question what God was doing in my life. And I want to say publicly, number one, I really appreciate that.
Aww,
thanks. Thank you for the support.
Yeah.
But number two, it can't be that you're just that godly. Like,
why can't it be? Sounds good to me.
Do you feel like internally you did struggle? Do you feel like there was on the inside, like, these are major changes? We're traveling 3,000 miles, 3 years later, 3,000 miles back.
Yeah.
Pastor to like a junior VP role to pastoring again in the Midwest, South to Cali to Midwest.
Yeah.
3 very big places.
Plus COVID was in there somewhere.
And yeah, somebody remember COVID? So, kind of walk us through how when people are struggling, like you have ladies ask you all the time, where our family's moving from here to Texas and I'm having a hard time with this. I don't want to go, or I don't know if we're making the right decision, or how do I trust, like, well, how'd you do it?
It's easier after the first one. Once you've walked
By the third time.
Yeah. By the third time, you're kind of like, whatever.
You're a professional.
Good. I haven't even unpacked the rest of the boxes. Just throw them back on the truck.
I was telling people for a while, well, we're in the Army. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, God's Army.
And he moves us
We're in the military. We move a lot.
Yeah, it's on a spiritual slant. It really does. Like, after you see God move the first time, it does increase your faith.
Yeah.
Because after leaving Ohio and like absolutely, just devastating my parents that we left and they didn't want us to leave and all that. And I was kicking myself because like my dad's crying and my mom's giving me death looks and she's about to kill you. I just thought like this could not get any worse. And it did get worse as far as it never gets easier to leave the people you love, but it gets easier in the respect of you see God reward you.
Yes.
And I say that like very blatantly, like you're saying God rewarded you for being a good child. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's good.
And he did. I mean, he absolutely gave us such blessed moments in ministry and friendships. We have friendships and family there in West Virginia that we will never not stay connected with. And then we leave West Virginia and it's like, okay, I can't believe you're doing this again, God. And the rewards again, I mean, the fact that you were able to get a master's degree, we both got invaluable training, and I was able for the first time in my life to be a part of a ministry where I was not related to the pastor.
Yeah.
That was really valuable for me.
Yeah,
I
good.
saw a lot. I learned a lot. I was given so many opportunities that I never would have had otherwise. And God did. God rewarded me each time. And so by the third time, I was, there was some fear and there was some, oh my word, what is going on? But then like 50% of it was like, oh man, what's God going to do next?
Yeah.
What's he going to give me this time? And it's easier to have a better attitude and to have this excitement over, I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be, a good year or two of digging in, but I can't wait to see what God gives me in the end. And he's done it again, of course.
The reward is amazing.
We love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Again, he proves himself. He shows himself. You just got to keep your eye on him.
Yeah.
Knowing, hey, sometimes not everything's smooth and you don't understand everything when the storm's going on.
Yeah.
But once the cloud settles and the sun comes out, there it is. Wow, it's so clear. And now we look back, even though it was a storm and it was tough.
Yeah.
And there were moments we had to really trust and hang on. But when you hang on for the ride, God's got you. Yeah. It's amazing.
And a cool application to that is this past Wednesday, I was speaking with a lady in our church who lost her husband during COVID. And I asked her that. I said, how's it going? How are you doing, in the healing process and all that? Like her response, and she's just amazing. Like in her presence, I feel like, a kid trying to learn from a parent. Like she's so wise. I just love her so much. And she sat there and started listing like the rewards that God has given her and some positive things that God has taught her through this. And I'm like, what? Like, who are you?
Wow.
I'm thinking she's going to say, well, it's been hard through this and hard. And she's like, let me tell you what God's done. I'm like, oh my word. Like
so awesome.
God can do that in any category. And of course we're giving, some personal examples, but that really hit me on Wednesday. I just thought that's such an amazing thing that no matter the storm God takes you through, like he's got those rewards and those blessings to heap back into your life.
That's good.
For that sacrifice.
Well, hey, we're going to pause right here. We're going to pick this conversation up. We would really like to walk just our listeners through change in the ministry. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more complex. It's where we really get bogged down in our Christian life. And so tune into our next episode. But as we jump off of here, just want to ask you, where do you struggle with change? What's been the hardest thing in your life that, man, you just feel like, I don't know if I could step out of the boat here. This takes a lot of faith. And let's see if we can help you and at least pray you through it. So thanks so much for listening this week. We'll catch you this next week.
Have a great week.